I hope you had a good lunch. It was a wonderful lunch there, great food and great desserts, which I had to do a quality testing of all of them, not because I wanted to eat all of the cakes. It was purely part of my job as a conference organizer. But thank you very much to Priority Freight for hosting that lovely lunch. I hope you had a good morning. I hope you enjoyed the presentations and the sessions that we had in the morning from the minister, the ambassador, and some great car makers and analysts sharing their views on how the industry, it wasn't specifically just Central and Eastern Europe, but it gave us an overview of how the automotive and logistics industries are developing. And if you enjoyed, well, no, not only if you enjoyed, we'd value your feedback on the conference. So you'll see, hopefully in front of you, some evaluation forms. These are very important to us. They're very important to us for any conference, but this is our first Central Eastern Europe conference, or at least the first one for about 10 years. We'd really appreciate your thoughts, ideas, comments. We do take them very, very seriously, so please take the time to complete them. And obviously give them back. You know, you don't have to fill them in now. If you're staying to the end of the day, which I'm sure you will, please complete them at the end of the last session. But if you're crazy enough to leave early, then please complete them before you go. They are really very important to us. It can also, I think, be done on the app, but as by all means, complete the evaluation forms in front of you. But now we've got a great session looking at, again, connecting the logistics networks, but again, looking at best practices, ideas, things that are being done globally that can and should be implemented here, some of the ideas that are being done here or in the region to try and help and support some of the challenges that are faced out here, and looking at some of the investment that's being made within the region, and also looking at even within Hungary, and even looking again, linking different continents with the region, with Eastern Europe. So we've got very fortunate to have a great panel ahead of us that includes associations, innovators, a part supplier, a tier supplier, and a logistics service provider. But first up, it's a great honour to welcome to the podium the first speaker, the Vice President of Transport Management Worldwide for Robert Bosch, who's Christine Mezger-Behan. Thank you, Christine. Thank you.
Thank you, Louis. Thank you for your warm welcome. Thank you for this opportunity to give you guys a bit of an impression of a journey that we've gone on, which we started roughly at the end of 2013 up until today, and to give you also, of course, an idea of what we're working on towards our future. I'd like to start with this picture. This building is not here, but if you call Stuttgart or around Stuttgart Central Europe, then that's where it is. This is a little bit of a futuristic picture, and it's actually the headquarters of our R&D center. It's where a lot of our ideas come from, which we have built on in the past, and of course the ideas that we are inventing now for the future. For life, for Bosch, and of course the ideas for which we have to provide logistics solutions. If you look at us, a lot of you guys will know us from a power tool that you've used to build some kind of cupboard together, whether it's a blue one or a green one, depending on how professional you think you are, or a washing machine, a dishwasher. Those are classically those things that you guys will know Bosch for. Depending on what car you drive, up to 60% of what is actually in the car comes from us as well. Wiper systems, the drives that are used to put up and down a window in your car, but also the drives that we use just to simply provide you some air conditioning in the summer. So we have a lot of the automotive contribution, but we do also other things. Driving you up a ski lift. How many of you guys ski? Few of you at least, right? So you sat in a chairlift, you want to get to the top of the mountain. A lot of these chairlifts are driven by our drives, right? So we are also hidden in a lot of other areas as well. And this means that the challenge that we have when we're developing logistics solutions, we have to see where we have standards for Bosch and where we can provide solutions for Bosch and where we really need a tailor-made solution because the business requires it. And the differentiation between these two things is tricky. Yeah, it's part of the change process that we've been through, and I want to give you an idea of what we have done there. So what did we do? At the end of 2013, we basically went to our board of management and said, as a company, as a business, we actually spend more money on logistics than we do on our R&D. Is that right? Well, I guess if it's providing solutions that our customers want, maybe. But there is a lot of potential there in the inefficiencies within the individual solutions that we have, and also across the solutions that we have, so in end-to-end processes across the divisions. And we would like to make a contribution as a function, and as the function that is connected to almost all others, right? Because there is no other function, and that's why I like the fact that this session is called all about connecting logistics. Logistics connects. I actually have it here on my shirt, but I didn't have this shirt tailor-made for today. That was really what our initiative was all about. And we said, okay, within the framework of We Are Bosch, of our Bosch strategy, of our objective, of our motivation, our strengths and our values, what is the contribution that logistics can bring? And if we are Bosch and we are logistics, how do we want to go about that? And we said, why do we want to do that? What are the main things, the main reasons why we want to do things differently tomorrow than we do today? And we came out of 4 main areas. The first, our people. Our people, I mean, you guys know that's no different to any of the people who are represented in this room, that our people are our future, right? We need to have motivated people. We need to have people who are working on topics that they are passionate about. And we need to be able to use their talents exactly in those areas where they can provide us the biggest added value. And within this framework, we talked also about this collaboration, so working with other functions. How can we work together better with our purchasing colleagues, with our finance colleagues, with our R&D colleagues, so really making sure that right at the beginning of a development process of a product that logistics are involved, that we're not sweeping up from behind in order to optimize the status quo, but that we think really in the green field before we develop products, what is best for Bosch. Supply chains. When I talk about supply chains in the top right-hand corner here, we're talking about existing supply chains. So optimizing the supply chains that we have today in a brownfield setup. So looking at the supply chains that exist already in our setup. Bottom left, for us as a company, extremely important. We're in the transformation. We need to think in terms of automotive, but also in the other areas, about new technologies, about the new business models that we're looking at. Electrification, shared economies, shared solutions, the sharing of cars, whatever it is. Connectivity. Our CEO, Mr. Dennis, says every single product that is able to be connected in some way, shape, or form will be connected by the year 2020 if it's coming from us. So we need to think, of course, if we're providing logistics solutions, that they are also connected. I'm talking about in the sense of I 4.0. And then on the bottom right, our information and our processes. What are the inefficiencies today that we have in our information flow and in our processes that we can improve by standardization, by automation, by digitalization, and by deploying this whole mindset of logistics connects. So that was the reason why. Now we look at what. And these focus topics that you look on here are probably topics that are not new to you. They would probably come up on a list of topics if I were to ask you what would it make sense to work on in logistics. But behind this, we have an organization of around 28,000 people. So of the 400,000 associates that we're talking about at Bosch, around 28,000, 30,000 work in logistics. And if you don't consistently communicate what you are working on, then why do you expect that these 28,000 are walking in the same direction? Each and every one of them in the past optimized themselves. They all did a great job. They all did what they thought was the best thing to do. And the big difference now is that we are all working on the same things. We all know where we want to go. We have, of course, within the focus topics that you see here, functional expertise. But these things go hand in hand. I cannot optimize something in transport without talking to my guys in goods receiving. I cannot connect dots just in a part of the supply chain and then hope that the other guys will maybe join us at some stage, because they might be walking in a completely different direction. And of course, I need to do that from a TCO perspective. So we need to look at the total cost. We need to look, although you will see later that I can show the figures that we have saved and the savings that we've generated in the individual functions, but we've done this by looking at the end-to-end perspective and to say, okay, what is the optimum for Bosch and what is the optimum in the overall supply chain, and then we have delivered the results. So this is our, what we call our mobile phone picture, so that's what it looks like in the middle. These are our 10 focus topics. These are the topics that we decided to make our focus topics for our initiative, and I'll show you in a minute what is exactly the result. One last thing that I'd like to add here, the 4 in the middle, so transport, warehousing, packaging, and foreign trade are areas where we defined for Bosch, and we said that we want to achieve a Bosch optimum. This means that if we look today, we have around 280 plants worldwide, that we are not having an individual plant optimum. We are not having individual plant solutions and plant initiatives, but we are having initiatives for example, transportation, for Bosch as an optimum. This could mean that, of course, one of the guys is not happy. It is not my task to make everybody happy. My task and my objective, if I look just in the transport management, but the same is for my colleagues for the other areas, to deliver an optimum for Bosch. And that's what we do in particular in these 4 areas. This is the complexity I talked about. So we are we exist in around or more than 100 countries. We have the 280 plants, like I said. We have around 800 warehouses. Around half of these are our own warehouses, run by our own people. The other half are warehouses from logistics service providers. We have around 18,000 direct suppliers, and we want to be able to serve around 250,000 customers with the complexity that I mentioned in the entry to my presentation. And we have to make sure that whatever we do and whatever we are working on is driven by the business and is driven by the customer need. So this is, of course, the first and foremost at the front of our minds. It was the top objective when I showed the We Are Bosch strategic slide. And we have to make sure that our guys are not optimizing themselves, not occupying themselves with nice ideas. I would also like to do that, but I tend to do that Saturday and Sunday. And that we make sure that whatever we do is driven by the requirements of these customers that we're talking here at the bottom. If I drill that down now to Hungary and to where we are also in business here, this just gives you a brief overview. We've actually been around for quite a while. When I put this slide set together, I didn't realize that we've been here in Hungary for more than 100 years. For me, this place has been, and Budapest in particular, has been in the focus for the last 4 years. But we are here with 9 legal entities, and it is here in Hungary. You see the 3rd biggest employer, the first industrial, and there's a kind of a competition with different countries around Europe as to how important Hungary is at the top of the tree. Germany, of course, is the biggest, but they are in there in the competition to establish and also to sustain the importance of this region, and of course of the region that goes further east that you don't see on the slide, but that we are developing. And when I show now the results of our initiative, I just give you an idea of what we've done also in this region. So if you go back to the focus topics, these are some of the results that we've produced. In the area of order management, we had individual ERP systems, individual ERP applications, very limited APS functionality back in 2013. Today, we are working with high junker boards. We have planners in one place in the plant. They can communicate directly with the shop floor. We have very nice touch screen high junker boards where if there is some reason why we can't produce something, that we can just with drag and drop move the production of particular products then further back. This makes planning and order management quite sexy, right? So if we're looking at new generations of people who want to plan tomorrow, we are looking to enhance here the UX, the user experience, and to generate also interest here. So not only to optimize our processes, but to make them also more easy to apply and to make them fun. Transportation, I touched briefly before. Decentralized responsibility, everybody did their best. Now we do this in the regional areas, here in Budapest for Europe, in Shanghai for China, in Bangalore for India, in Campinas for Brazil, in Singapore for ASEAN, and now we're starting to close the final gap with North America this year to have the final transport management center in that region. 20% transportation costs, so that is cost out of our company. EBIT reduction, of course, we have some of our own costs, but this is really what we make our contribution to our EBIT. We have 800 warehouses. We've saved here around 15% cost. If I ask you guys in the audience to put your hand up, if I name a figure of how many warehouses we have downtown Stuttgart, I don't mean on the Königstraße, but I mean in that area. Who says 5? Who would go in for 5? Show of hands. 5 warehouses in Stuttgart? No. 10? Okay, 15? The 2 Bosch guys in the audience are not allowed to play. 20? Oh, I still have some takers. 25? Okay, you guys are the closest. So there were 2 of you with a hand. We have actually 24 right now. And if I ask why we have 24 warehouses, I will get 24 answers, right? And everybody has a reason. The best killer argument is IT. This is always the best. And then we have to start a dialogue and a change to ask exactly, is this really the right thing to do? The biggest cost reduction we have done here is through the reduction of our footprint. So that is one of the main things, and we are doing the same in Stuttgart, not everywhere else in the world. This is one of the biggest drivers. Packaging, we have standardized our packaging. We have standardized our approval process for packaging. So we also have, I could ask you again, but I'm running out of time. Every 4 seconds, somebody introduces a new packaging number at Bosch. So I'm in the business of transportation. I would like there just to be 1, ideally, right? So that we can standardize and optimize. We stopped that. We stopped that a while ago, otherwise you wouldn't see here the cost reduction that we have. Just by standardizing our packaging, just by understanding that we can use the same packaging, A, B, and C, to serve a specific purpose here, having standardized processes, this is one of the contributions we've had. And last but not least, foreign trade, of course, we have legal requirements. Of course, there are individual trade union agreements which do not allow us to optimize across that, but also here, we need to have the process expertise that we have in one organization, and this is the result. The future looks like this. We want to have a connected supply chain. This is our vision. We want to have transparency. We don't want to have people sitting watching where trucks are going. We want to know if there's a deviation to what we expect is going to happen. So that will be the focus of the future, not looking at blue dots along the screen, but really being able to see where we have a deviation from what we expect so that we can adapt at the right time. Outside our plants, inside our plants with our AGV program, standardized connected AGVs, right up to the topic of transport condition monitoring. where we want to know whether our products have been influenced by shock or by temperatures or things like this. That is the basis of our future. It's been a long journey in a very short time for a company of our size, over 4 years. The results I shared with you, and I look forward to your questions after the rest of you have had a chance to give your contribution. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Christine. A very good and interesting presentation there that really showed an example or benchmarking for the rest of us in logistics. And again, that kind of moving away from the perhaps silo mentality that's been around over the years to more of a company-wide, a real strategic planning. And I particularly like that point about logistics being an enabler and supporting your company to develop it, including its sustainability and even a profitability, which is something sometimes logistics isn't considered that way. Very often when we think about logistics, we just consider it as a waste. So it's nice to see it as a positive contributor to your company. I think I've mentioned it before that the last conference we had in Central Europe before this one was actually in Slovenia, in Maribor, I think, if I remember rightly, in Slovenia. Beautiful place, again, another beautiful country. And now to hear what's happening there, some of the challenges they're facing in Slovenia, but that's relevant for the whole industry. I'm pleased to have here Igor Zula, who's the President and CEO of the Slovenian Logistics Association. Thank you, Igor.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, in the name of Slovenian Logistics Association, I would like to say hi to all of you, colleagues in logistics, and of course the organizers. As it has been told, I'm supposed to speak about what is going on in Slovenia. So actually I am president of Slovenian Logistics Association. It is a horizontal association, so what am I doing here in automotive industry? Logistics. Slovenia decided it will support some change through 6 different pillars. One of them is this mobility, and inside of mobility, of course, is whole automotive industry, and logistics as a sector, it is connected to the automotive industry. This is actually rather very interesting, and from my perspective, it is exactly the proper way, since we all know that logistics in automotive industry, it is far, far more developed or mostly developed than in other branches, not only from the technical part, but from the standard part, etc. So if we follow everything in automotive industry, obviously there are some good practices that we really can transfer to the other branches as well. So, of course, in logistics, you all know there are different trends. Of course, we have to address all of them, especially the complexity. It is the one that is rather relevant for all the changes that are supposed to come. Usually, especially in our case, there is transportation. It is rather traditional. We like to transfer goods from A to B. Warehousing, it is rather traditional. We like to warehouse things. However, the logistics today has to cover many other aspects, and of course, we as an association are supposed to cover it. We're supposed to emphasize and empower everybody to change and to go closer to these needs of the industry. What is now the situation in Slovenia? Actually, in Slovenia, it is over 7,000 different companies in logistics, and you know we are a 2 million people market. 38,000 people employed. It is not so much as employed people in Bosch towards logistics. So this is now the general idea what happens in Slovenia. However, we represent over 6% of revenue in Slovenia, and we are really growing as a branch strongly. 47,000 euros added value per employee. It is not so bad. We are somewhere in the middle of Europe, but we know that, for example, added value in Denmark, it is over 80%, 80,000 euros, so there is a lot of space to change. Towards digitalization, we are again somewhere in the middle. However, since digital economy society index covers economy in general, and if we consider the logistic branch from the part that we discussed it before, 7,000 and a little bit over different companies, then of course the situation it is rather different, and it really calls on changes. What are the problems? The problems really are people shortages. In Slovenia, there is approximately between 3,000 and 4,000 people drivers needed in logistics. In Germany, as far as I know, over 30,000, and of course this causes problems as well in Slovenia, since we are kind of mid stop for drivers to go to Austria, to Germany, etc. So I will try to address this issue at the end of this presentation. The same story as in warehouse, and rather very important part is in the back office of the logistics part, since there comes in place not only knowing and understanding the business, but as well understanding of mathematics, understanding of IT and the other things. And of course, with 7,000 companies, there obviously somewhere has to be lack of these issues. We make a huge step in logistic performance indicator. Last year we have been on 52nd place. Now we are on 35th, and of course we still have some opportunity to grow. And this is rather the overall situation. In Slovenia is the situation like that everybody wants to have his own flat. Every farm has to have its own tractor, and this is why we really don't like to collaborate. This is our very important point. We don't like to collaborate, and it is an issue how to overcome this problem. Value-added services, as we've been speaking before, logistics and industry really calls for really partnership, strong partnership in logistics companies. And I would say that we are now in the very beginning of this part of transformation. We have, of course, two issues. Value-added services usually are able to develop when the needs is there, when there is asking for this kind of services, and afterwards, of course, the logistics service providers supposed to come closer and, of course, give this offerings as well. However, if the companies are not aware of what logistics can do, then logistics has a problem. Now we have to address both of the issues on the company side, on the purchasing side, and of course on the logistics side. In automatization, internal logistics, actually it is becoming better and better. There are some respected companies as well opening their branches for automatization in Slovenia, and we do believe that actually this is one of the very bright things towards transformation. So you know how it's in transportation. Every digitalization in logistics, actually, especially in the small companies, means additional costs, not as investment. So this is something that really have been a problem years ago. Now we are in the situation when the trends are moving to the better place. Especially what makes me happy is that more or less the companies are aware that there is a change supposed to be. Ms. Paulina already said today that when we are dealing with the transformation in IT, we are actually dealing with a culture change. And now if we are saying and speaking this on the national level, then obviously this is even a bigger aim, and of course harder way to do it. So this is where we as an association are somewhere in between. So Digilog.si, this is actually our way how we approach to support this change in Slovenia. What it is a partner network for developing and taking measures for competitiveness, improvement in logistic processes, models, etc., etc. So there is a lot of partners involved into this one, and hopefully with closer work with them, we will emphasize and empower this change. There are 3 institutions that collaborate and works together. On the top of it is, of course, Automotive Cluster of Slovenia and Ms. Tanja Mohoric. I'm rather sure that some of you knows. Automotive Cluster gives somehow a strength and a power towards development change. On the other side, Slovenian Logistics Association, we are actually offering some soft approaches, soft skills. We want to empower all our companies that are member of us to do the change. And of course, the Slovenian Transportation Association, they are covering more this formal part. So we believe that together we are rather very strong. We cover much more than 6% of this market, since there is, beside logistics, there is, of course, automotive industry together, and this is something rather very different. Who are members of our association? Faculties, companies, and everybody that are somehow connected to the logistics. And this gives us opportunity to share the ideas across all the supply chain. We do want to cover the material flow, we do want to cover the supply chain and data flow, and we want to cover and especially to support this change, which actually at the end has become as the biggest problem, business to government communication. Single window, now everybody are talking about this. We are talking about this already for over 10 years, and we are still on the very beginning. I believe in the next year we will make a step ahead. This, from our perspective, it is rather very important part. We decided that we are going to support and collaborate with the companies in two-step approach. There is no big bang possible if we said from the very beginning that we are rather very traditional. Now to go to the breakthrough innovations in a big bang step ahead, this is not possible. So obviously we have to first do the change of mindset, or as Ms. Paulina said, cultural change, and when we are going to be ready, then we can do further bigger steps. So first we support information and technology modernization, new technology solution development, and new services and business models, which reflects to this what I have said a little bit before. Together with the demonstration project, together with supporting of the innovation, we strongly believe that then in next period we will become to some breakthrough innovations, and that the added value per employee in logistics will raise across the average of the Europe. So what have we missed in this my saying? Of course, we were speaking about administrative environment. We were speaking about supporting IT and logistic technologies. We were speaking about product and services and new business models, etc. And obviously, when we were preparing the documents, we missed two very important things. This is people change and the way of managing and leadership change. This is now what we are correcting, and of course, we will add this issue. I would just like, since there is not much time, to stress two things. Of course, education, it is very important. We do want that the people that are students, that are leaving the faculties, are very usable at the very moment, and that they have a knowledge of the future as well. Of course, we would like that the government would do their job. However, the biggest part of the job the companies should do on their own. This is what we know, what we understand. This is where me works in this area, and there is leadership and working conditions. These are some rather very important points. To speak about this, I would stay just at one example, since the idea has been to talk about shortages and what we can do with the driver shortages. My experience, this is one serious experience that we have it in business, was transformation in trucking and transportation company. Having over 6,500 transportation companies, that means that there is a huge amount of small companies with 1, 2 drivers, and there is a lot of course, bigger companies. The issue in this situation is, of course, bigger companies from this area. It happens that the development of this company started when Slovenia went apart from Yugoslavia. A lot of companies raced from 1 truck to now 200, 300 trucks, and of course, managing this part of a company, it is different than being learned and teach how to manage bigger system. Small system, there is a manager, there is an owner, he knows everything about everything. And change now in this situation, it means there is a structure, there are KPIs, there is a trust between people, and there are systems that through which one you're supposed to ride. So when you are employing the drivers and so on, of course, if there is no system involved, that means that the better wage, better conditions gets the one that can deal better. And of course, now how to add now some system into environment like this. First one is that the management, the owners supposed to be good enough to understand that the change is needed. Afterwards, then there is a time that's supposed to be needed. And of course, after some period of time, we introduce, of course, the new waging system, which actually reflects and not reflects, it covers as well the mileage that has been done, number of stops that has been done on one side, and the variable part that has been connected to the driver's attitude to work, which consists out of the working readiness, out of cleanliness, how good he fulfilled the documents, how he treats the goods, and of course, what is his attitude towards working resources. It takes some time, but after a huge fluctuality in driver part, when we introduced now the system, we came to reduce the fluctuation for over 50%. That means that there is still a lot of place of course, in the diversity of different approaches on dealing with the drivers, but when there is a system in place, it really supports beside everything else, that the drivers are more close to the company that they started to as it is. Why is this important? You know that the drivers from Slovenia, we cannot more or less employ them into the driving companies. We, of course, use the same pool as you colleagues are using. We are using Bosnia, Serbia, Macedonia, even Croatia, and etc. And of course, after 2 years, after we teach everybody how to deal with the devices and everything, they too often like to go to Austria and Germany, as I said it before. So there is much to be told in this part, and hopefully we will have time to discuss about these issues in further. This is my answer for the third topic. I strongly believe it is the right thing. So thank you very much, and here we are for further discussion.
Thank you very much, Igor. Thank you very much, Igor. Again, another interesting presentation that shared some of the challenges that and what success has been done in Slovenia, but also relevant for other regions as well. So thank you very much for that. Made a couple of mistakes today, which is unusual for me, but it's just as you can probably guess, I'm getting on a bit in age, so getting a bit forgetful. So Rodney, you understand what I mean. So I think I said Maribor for our conference in Slovenia when actually it was in Koper. So I think I got that wrong. And also I made a mistake earlier in the day when I called one of our sponsors InPac instead of InPark. InPark, the property and land development company. So I apologize for that, making that mistake as well. But as you can probably guess by just looking at me, I'm sure there'll be many more that I need to apologize before the end of the day. I'd like to then go on to the next speaker. And just to be sure, after all I've just said, I'll go for the easier presentation name of Peter Simon from a very interesting organization, Zula Zone. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. The thing is right there. Okay. Okay. And this is the forward. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Peter Simon. I was born in Canada of Hungarian immigrants. So in Hungary, I call myself Simon Péter. And not a time I get called Simon Peter. So whatever you say, I'll turn my neck. I'm from Zula Zone. It's a very new proving ground. And you're wondering why a proving ground is here talking to automotive logistics people. It's all about developing and testing the new mobilities. This proving ground is a brand new development on 265 hectares with a budget of 150 million euro. If any of you are following automotive technology, you'll know that in the United States they have an American Center of Mobility. We are more or less the European Center of Mobility. At least we like to tell ourselves that, and that's part of my role today is to explain that to you. So my presentation is Zula Zone, a synergistic, innovative technology environment, providing proactive support for future logistics solutions. So I'm here to kind of help the trucking companies and the logistics service providers and also help the factories and in a way connect them in between with new solutions and reduce the bottlenecks. The project itself was not developed by a few of us in the countryside in Hungary. It's actually from industry. The whole specifications of the proving ground came from industry. It came from the people you see down here. Now you see some names, some of you belong to those organizations. Some of you don't, but we had working groups between the years 2014 and 2017 to come up with specifications. Took those to the partner organizations that were involved in this, and the whole specification, right from the very beginning, the whole specification process was coordinated with the university, the Budapest Engineering School at BME. A lot of the engineers that were test engineers in these organizations were getting together on their own time to think, wow, wouldn't it be great to stay in Hungary and test our own, or stay in the region and test our own developments rather than always having to go abroad. And that's where it became, it was an ownership issue right from the beginning from an engineering point of view with the focus of the School of Engineering at BMV. And because of that happened, and because we were able to together approach the organizations that lent their people, so to speak, and we were looking for funding. Well, it never happened. The long ROI and the huge amount required for a proving ground was nothing that any of these companies were really interested in. They liked the idea, they were supporting it. So with their help and with the help of the university, we were able to lobby the government. And in 2016, we were able to get the full funding from the Hungarian government. No EU money, no third-party money, 100% Hungarian government funding, because they knew it was part of the future strategy to support what they needed to develop the economy of Hungary. And again, to explain that to them, we were also talking to them about capacity constraints at other existing proving grounds, really a lack of independent proving grounds. A lot of the proving grounds belong to a certain company. Technology changes are requiring the intensive need of proving grounds. And then the idea of contributing to not just only the Hungarian economy, but actually the whole European economy and the European automotive industry. In the race for technology and innovation, how can we keep ahead as a continent compared to China or the US or North America? And this was sort of a Hungarian initiative to help support the European economy and the automobile industry in Europe. This is the proving ground. This is our the SAPE sculpture. This is the sexy part of the presentation. It's an area of 400 hectares, 2 kilometers by 2 kilometers, with the proving ground area being 265. It's benchmarked against key type of proving grounds when we're talking about urban mobility and urban autonomous development. You've heard of M-City in Michigan at the University of Ann Arbor. That kind of program has spilled over into the American Center of Mobility, which is also close by. Then in Korea, you have K-City. In China, you have several small to larger test facilities like this. This is a low velocity or low speed test facility for urban testing of autonomous vehicles. Yeah, it has a logistics center. As you remember, maybe seeing Knorr-Bremsen was one of our major partners, and is still today, as is Bosch and some others. But Knorr-Bremsen came and brought us the need for commercial vehicle development. You need a proving ground there that will be able to deal with light commercial vehicles and the heavy commercial vehicles. And this is a key niche for our proving ground, to able to help your organizations with the development of the new technologies from last mile in an urban area with different modes of transport, even including logistics warehousing connection to the truck, including valet parking and this kinds of things for a large commercial vehicle. So we're not just talking about private cars. We're talking about commercial vehicles and the wide modes of commercial vehicles that exist. We're also talking about specialty types of vehicles, people movers in an urban area for the new mega cities that are usually on a level 5 or a vehicle that doesn't even have a steering wheel. And also to special types of fleet companies like Uber or 5AI in the UK. And we developed them within the city area, and then we moved them to what looks like more of a traditional type of proving ground here, which is more of a higher velocity or higher speed area. But here itself, we have a new design. We're including an Autobahn or a highway section. I like the word Autobahn. That really means something. Highway, that could be anything, a 2-lane highway, 4-lane highway. Just to your, the German people in the audience, I really love the Autobahn word. So we have an Autobahn, we have a highway section, which is also very important. But the connecting roads to some of the traditional types of modules within the proving ground are on real road. They're of a European standard. So when you talk about autonomous vehicle development, when you talk about the sensors on the development, and take it in the idea of an advanced telematics system for a vehicle that actually driving the vehicle. So when you collect this information on these connecting roads, it's a valid information. So you could have endurance testing, not for your suspension of the vehicle, but for the autonomous or the advanced driving assistance safety section of your vehicle, going from one module to the other, yeah, in this kind of environment. We have 80 centimeters of basalt of gravel under all of the roads. So again, there's a support for the 40 tons vehicles on this. In here, you can also see the yellow section, which is a university R&D center. When we developed the whole concept of the proving ground, it supported 3 types of business models. One was OEM and Tier 1 testing and validation and potentially homologation or type approval. A second business model was to support startups and SMEs and into developing their new subsystems when they don't have connection maybe to the Tier 1 or an OEM. This is where maybe some of your organizations can fit in, like a Hürdelmeyer, for instance, or another type of logistic company. You have a specialty vehicle that you're developing with the manufacturer, or with Bosch even, for some of their logistics projects within their organization. So if they have a new vehicle or a new concept they want to test, they can come here and test that on the proving ground. We offer a wide range of test vehicles, so subsystems, either on the software side and artificial intelligence or different sensors can be tested within our test vehicles. And then that can be launched to the market or showcased to a wide range of potential buyers or interested parties. And the third area of the business model, which is quite intoxicating for an OEM or Tier 1, is university-based R&D. To have that centered here, to be able to offer the services of not just testing and executing the testing and the type approval for the different modes of transport, but we can offer them on a team or set them up with a team to do additional R&D on areas where they don't have the capacity within their organization or they're looking for new areas of innovation. So that's the basic 3 models or the 3-legged stool approach to this proving ground. You see the different sections here, and I'll go on to the next steps to explain. That's what it looks like in rendered. This is a picture that was compiled by Horoba Myra, which the ambassador to Hungary from the UK talked about. They won the tender after we made the specifications, and it was wonderful working with them. Very, very professional people. Here you can see in the bottom corner the city sections. It doesn't have real buildings because we don't want any people working there, but it has building facades on and different types of things to challenge the autonomous car development or vehicle development. You can see the high-speed proving modules, including a dynamic area that's 300 meters in diameter. This is an area like a stage, like the green backdrop in some of the film industry. You can do all sorts of different testing on this. And we have our wonderful tower we're building. We'll have actually 3 towers. This whole area is a 5G telecom development center, as well as it is a G5 or Wi-Fi communication development area as well. So this is also important for the integration of the connected vehicle, not just the autonomous vehicle, but the connected vehicle as well. Okay, and here you can see our convention center, conference center. So if any of you want to have off-site meetings or want to do showcasing of some of maybe your sub-products, or you can do them here. So, and I think a lot of you have a potential to say, okay, you're my supplier, man, you're my supplier, Bosch, but I need this kind of concept and I want to develop together with you. Like a special car moving vehicle, or a concept for valet parking for the commercial vehicle, or the loading of the autonomous forklift into the truck, and testing these different types of scenarios. This is a proving ground in about what it looks like, what it looked like in August. Yeah, it's not actual status. This is just a little bit of older picture. I will show you this in a film at the very end. Yeah, and the time is wasting. This slide just shows you that at the beginning, we involved a wide variety of organizations to support a mobility platform, and this was in coordination with the Hungarian government. And this is just showing that the proving ground is the center of a hub of the whole development of the technologies. And I have to mention that in Hungary, we have special legislation for over a year now, which allows public road testing for autonomous vehicles. No other country, not even the UK, has such liberal and extended types of, I'm sorry I have to say that, legislation to allow public road testing of up to level 4. So the steering wheel has to be in the vehicle, there has to be a driver. So this is something also very special for the proving ground, and an extended test bed within Hungary and actually into Slovenia and Austria. With a wide range of services, again, supporting R&D, special infrastructure services, and not just your traditional asphalt proving ground areas, but your whole autonomous vehicle development and on to public road testing. I'm going to take a little bit more time because it is quite interesting. This is the smart city, 5 different areas to do testing in it. Again, it does include a logistics yard and also an urban canyon area. And anybody has other questions about my presentation after or in the evening, I'm willing to answer questions or share that information with you. Again, moving from the proving ground into the public road testing in the local city, which is also a special type of technology city that the Hungarian government is designing. There's about 7 of them in the country. On to the special developed or promoted roads within Hungary and also Austria and Slovenia. This is a little bit of information about the legislation. And just to say that not only is the proving ground being supported as part of the mobility platform of Hungary, we have 2 new educational programs in Budapest at a master's level, one in artificial intelligence, the one in autonomous vehicle development, but we also feed into a test. We also help develop a test engineering program at the local university in Zalaegerszeg that's beside the mechatronics program. So we are creating our own future engineers, yeah? And that's what I wanted to hear this morning. Are you creating your own future engineers? Are you engaged with the universities on a curriculum basis to actually get the people that you need in 5 to 10 years? This is our smart field technology park. This is an invitation to any of you that want to have work connected to R&D and the proving ground. There are opportunities for mid to long-term placement near the proving ground here. Thank you very much. And I just have a really quick video, and I'll be talking through the video. The video will show several different applications of autonomous driving, some of the partners and technology developers within the country, in the region, and how Zula Zone is going to help them with their testing. Thank you very much. So we have Automotive. It's a Hungarian startup. It's no longer a startup, actually. It's partly owned by Bosch now because they decided to invest in that. It has their autonomous driving systems that they're promoting here with offices in Tokyo, Finland, I believe, and California. You can have the sound a little bit higher for the video if you want. Here we have Thyssen Group with their special steering development for autonomous vehicle development. We have Knorr Bremsen with the valet parking And the future for logistics is more and more automation. And even in the future, you might not even consider who the manufacturer anymore, because like in the aerospace industry, I don't go on an Airbus or a Boeing, I sit on a Lufthansa airplane or an Austrian Airlines or a Qantas or one of those. It's not really the actual vehicle I'm thinking about, but the service provider. The future is yours. The opportunities are great with this additional disruptive technology, how you take it by the hands and wrestle with it and make it into what takes your company into the future is all up to you. Here's Bosch with their drive-by-wire and some development here. And again, a lot of technology is being developed in Hungary. Most of the major tier ones are here, like they was explained before, and 5 OEMs, and regionally, all the automotive companies and logistics companies are based in and around the area, if in Hungary or outside of Hungary. And we're very close, from a proving ground point of view, we're very close to the German market, 550 kilometers away. Some needs for testing services out of southern Germany would have to go to an independent facility in northern Germany, or to Spain, or to the south of Italy, potentially to the UK. We're even closer. This is the proving ground and the full set of modules that will be finished by 2020. Or never finished, but almost finished. It's a sandbox for transportation and telecom and automotive engineers. Part of the project will include a new highway between Zalaegerszeg and the M7, which is the Zagreb to Budapest corridor. It'll have the highest level ITS infrastructure on it and include a 12-kilometer section for high-speed testing, whether that's a sport car or whether that's an autonomous vehicle or commercial vehicle having to deal with high-speed oncoming vehicles that are small, like motorcycles. This is showing you the rendered picture and the actual status of maybe about 3 weeks ago. We are open, we are doing testing on a limited level right now for about 6 weeks. The high-speed handling is not just for high speeds of sport cars or normal vehicles, it's also a possibility to test automated driving or the dynamics of special systems in commercial vehicles with blind corners or oncoming traffic. It's 12 meters wide and also with the 80 centimeters of basalt underneath that. This is our technical building. This is our professional building that has not just a private vehicle, personal vehicle, but also commercial vehicle garage. And this is our conference center for up to 500 people for the support of our customers, or even people who just want to have some sort of off-site management event. It's possible to be here. We're like a country club for automobile testing. Thank you very much. I apologize for the exchange.
No, that was fine. Very good. Thank you very much. Yeah, very exciting. A very exciting vision of a very exciting future for the automotive industry there, from a very exciting project. Thank you very much. That was it's really interesting to see, and I hope. I wonder if you'll give a discount at your conference centre for any companies who allowed you to promote yourselves quite early on. And connected, the theme of this session is connecting logistics networks, and we've talked about connectivity as such, but sometimes connecting can be physical as well, maybe connecting regions, like for example from China to Europe in some way or another. So our next presenter I'd like to welcome to the podium Tongwei Yang, the head of International Rail from Changzhou Logistics. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Louis, for the introduction. My name is Tongwei Yang from Changzhou Logistics. For the audiences that are familiar with our company, Changzhou Logistics is the only IPO automotive logistics company in China, and is mainly engaged by the whole supply chain service in automotive logistics. We started our international business in 2013 with international rail deliveries between Europe and China for OEMs, focusing on finished vehicles and components. And today I'm going to discuss with you, present to you the topic of the Belt and Road Initiative, and focusing on the Central and Eastern Europe region. Okay, Mike. Firstly, I will introduce the background information about the Belt and Road Initiative. After that, I will go through the current development of BRI in Central and Eastern Europe. Then I will share with you what I see as opportunities and challenges, especially for the Central and Eastern Europe region. Last but not least is, of course, the key for better cooperation between China and the Central and Eastern Europe countries. But first of all, please allow me to share with you already the core message I want to deliver for my presentation. That is, Central and Eastern Europe countries has unique advantages in utilizing the Belt and Road Initiative, but more investment and better mutual understanding, and also a more diverse cooperation in all levels are required in order to reach a win-win situation. So firstly, some background information about the Belt and Road Initiative. The Belt and Road Initiative is a foreign policy and also economic plan launched by China in 2014. It basically consists of two roads. One is the land road, which refers to the economic steel belt, also called One Belt, connecting the east end and west end of Eurasia. The other road is the sea road. It's also called 21st Century Maritime Silk Road, or One Road. It's basically connecting China with Southeast Asia, Africa, and Europe. So this is also why the Belt and Road Initiative is also called One Belt, One Road policy in China. It basically has 5 key goals. The first one is facility connectivity. It means to connect facilities covering the Belt and Road Initiative with countries along the road. It basically involves infrastructure investments covering the power network, railway, and also pipelines. The second one is policies connectivity. So far, around 40 cooperation agreements are signed and made between China and also the Belt and Road Initiative's countries in order to promote this initiative. Next one is also financial connectivity, and this is realized by financial institutions, for example, the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, or the BRICS Bank, and especially for here, Central and Eastern Europe, the 16+1 financial holding company, by financing the money for the projects. And besides, it's also trade connectivity, and this refers to embedded trade. So far, 60 economic zones specially established under the background of Belt and Road Initiative in more than 20 countries along the whole road. Last but not least is, of course, the people-to-people connectivity, and this covers country-to-country level cooperation, includes on science, education, medical and health, tourism. So I have a question for the audiences now in the room. How many of you have visited China in the past 5 years? Please raise your hand. Okay, so I see roughly half of you have already been involved in the Belt and Road Initiative. And one of the most important aspects from the Belt and Road Initiative I want to highlight is also the Sino-European trends. Started in 2013 with only 80 trends. Nowadays, it has gone up to 6,000 real journeys in 2017, connecting 38 cities in China with 36 cities in 13 European countries. And also, the lead time has been largely reduced comparing to launch of these trends from 20 days to nowadays on average 12 to 14 days. Also, the cargo transported by the Sino-European trends has been more diverse. Apart from IT products, nowadays automotive, wine, fashion, food or wood are also now being delivered by Sino-European trends. And we can see that for the Central Eastern Europe region, 8 out of the 13 European countries are covered in the coverage of the trend destinations. And now we move on to focus closer on the BRI development in Central and Eastern Europe. Firstly, it's of course about facilities. So nowadays, it has been, apart from the international rail, the container traffic between Europe and China, China has invested multiple infrastructure projects in the Central and Eastern Europe area, covering roads, railway, ports, and airports. And besides that is, of course, also the people-to-people connectivity. The number of Chinese tourists visiting Central and Eastern Europe has grown from 280,000 in 2013 to 2017 has grown up to 930,000. So during the launch of the Belt and Road Initiative, and also more and more direct flights are opened between Chinese cities and cities in Central and Eastern Europe. And also in trades, the total trade volume between Central and Eastern Europe countries and China has grown up 15% in 2017 comparing to 2016. In terms of finance, the accumulated investment amount that China has invested in the 16 countries in the Central and Eastern Europe has added up to $9 billion US. And in terms of policies also, China has made agreements on special customs inspection policies for products like milk products, meat, fruits, and wine that are being imported from Central and Eastern Europe to China. And now I would like to share with you what I see as opportunities for the Central and Eastern Europe. First of all is that due to the unique geographical location, Central and Eastern Europe are seen as a gateway between the East and West. So, and I want to also highlight that all Central and Eastern Europe countries are in the coverage of the Belt and Road Initiative. And also, the labor conditions here is also better than comparing to other Belt and Road Initiative covering areas. They are better educated, but at the same time, with lower labor costs, especially in high-tech industry. And of course, as Peter and Igor has already was inspirations already by their presentations. We can see that in Central and Eastern Europe they have very strong industry in the fields of agriculture, automotive, and high-tech. One special point I want to highlight is also this Made in EU. And this refers to the growing passion of Chinese customers now in China. They are needing more and more imported products, especially from the EU countries. And this Made in EU can serve as an identification when they choose products. They will use this as a criteria to justify the country of origin, or let's say the area of origin. So it can be foreseen that more and more products from Central and Eastern Europe are needed in the Chinese market. Last but not least is, of course, the tourism resources. We can see the figures has shown a positive growth in the previous slide, but due to the tremendous tourism resources in Central and Eastern Europe that are not yet promoted in China, and we see that the number of the Chinese tourists visiting this region is still limited and still have a large potential to grow. And coexisting with the opportunities, of course, the challenges. This is a picture that I took in the Moderator corridor in Poland, and which is the most frequently used corridor between China and Europe in railway. And we can see that constant construction work are going on, for example, to upgrade a rail track. On the one hand, is due to the sharp increase of the Sino-European block trends in recent years, but this has caused a massive negative effect, especially in 2017, for all the block trends going through this corridor. And really negative effect, of course, making the lead time longer. So we can see that with the Sino-European block trends, also the container throughput in Moderator corridor has grown up four times larger comparing to 2015. And we can see that the infrastructures in Central and Eastern Europe is not yet ready to catch up with the rapid growing demand in international logistics. And of course, and it's also still difficult to find a mature corridor in the European side to deliver all the trends. So the challenges of Central and Eastern European region, first of all, is, as I mentioned, the existing infrastructure cannot cover the rapid growing demand. And also sometimes the EU regulations may create barriers for direct investments in this region. For example, and also in terms of financing, for example, when a direct investor coming from China, they may face risk because of a high level of public debt of some of the countries, and also the different, the various currencies that is used here in the Central and Eastern Europe side. And what shouldn't be ignored is also the communication and cultural barriers. That is, for example, when a Chinese company opens a subsidiary in East Europe, they may face not only the language problem, but also the local law and regulations problem when recruiting employees. And last but not least is also the low administrative efficiency of the local governments in fields of company registration, property registration, and planning. But of course, in order to cope with these challenges, I would like to share with you what I see as the key for better cooperation in 3 perspectives. So what China can do, what Central and Eastern Europe countries can do, and what both of us can do together. So for China, first of all, we can increase the imports products from the CEE region. And apart from SOEs, actually more SMEs should be encouraged to make investment here. And what shouldn't be neglected is also the differences and uniqueness among these Central and Eastern European countries, a more targeted cooperation between companies, and a most fitting Central and Eastern European country should be made, or even cities. And for the Central and Eastern European countries, apart from increasing administrative efficiency, upgrading and extending the infrastructure for supply chain, and it's also important for them to enhance the publicity of laws and regulations for the investor, for foreign investor, and to create a better investment environment. And what we can do together is to diversify also the cooperation areas. For example, like I just mentioned, in fields of agriculture, automotive, and high tech, and also last but not least, to establish a risk management mechanism to avoid potential financial problems. So this is the conclusion of my presentation, which I shared with you at the beginning of my slides. CEE countries has unique advantages in utilizing the Belt and Road initiatives, but more investment, better mutual understanding, and more diverse cooperation at all levels are required to reach a win-win situation. So thank you for attention.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Tongwei Yang. Again, another interesting presentation, and sharing the opportunities, advantages, and challenges of the One Belt, One Road initiative, and linking Asia, China to Europe. So I think we've had some very interesting presentations there, covering different aspects of connectivity and different aspects to the future of automotive logistics globally, but also in the region. So this is your opportunity to do your work. So again, it's a Q&A. We'd like to give you the opportunity first. If you've got any questions in the room, we've also had a question on the app, at least one question on the app. So if you want to use the app, if you're shy and prefer to use the app, please feel free to do so. Maybe I'll start off by asking, don't worry, you're not going to get to your coffee break any earlier. So if you have any questions, please raise your hand, wait for the microphone, and then say your name and your company name and ask the question. The young gentleman in the middle there.
Thank you. Group GCA. I have a question, please, to Mr. Jan, because on the big Eurasian map, you have mentioned the land road, which is going via, let's say, the south corridor, but I have not seen the one which is going via Kazakhstan, Russia, and Belarus. Is there any specific reason for that? Because this is the corridor which is working now, if I understand well. Thank you.
Yes, to answer your question, the graphic that I used in my presentation is a more general one, introducing the Belt and Road initiative. So it's not focusing on details of railway development connecting China and Europe. And yes, as you have mentioned, in Kazakhstan and Russia, the development are ongoing, and it's from both sides, not only from Central and Eastern Europe, serving as a gateway between China and West Europe. But also on the China side, we are also improving our infrastructure to fulfill a higher demand in terms of international railway transportation.
Thank you for the question. Just on that subject, Tongyang, I know there's a lot of excitement from China. China's very interested in developing the One Belt, One Road. Are you getting the same reaction from Europe? Are they as excited? You know, we have conferences in China, it's the number one subject. We have conferences in Europe, and it isn't the number one subject.
To be honest, no. But in Central and Eastern Europe area, I can say that they have more enthusiasm and they show more passion comparing to Western European countries. So I think more that's why I said better mutual understanding is required, and more communication between China and Europe is demanded. But for example, I also noticed that some of the CEE countries they're afraid of joining the Belt and Road Initiative may influence their future plan of joining the EU. And that's why I see that it could be communicated, and it should have been communicated in better way that the BRI launched by the Chinese government is not standing in conflict with joining the EU, for example, and also the think tank. International think tank is established between China and CEE countries, and we are also exploring a three-party cooperation model between West Europe, Central and Eastern Europe, and also China. So this does not stay in conflict, and which should give more confidence to countries that are more standing away from the Belt and Road Initiative at the current moment.
Okay, thank you. Christine, Bosch is obviously a very global company. And I'm sure you have lots of inter-Asian, intra-Asian kind of supply chains. Is the One Belt something that's on your horizon, or are you already using it?
Yes and yes. So we've had some of the pilots trials. We use the northern route that was just mentioned, and I was just asking myself why, where does the interest come from? Where is the business need that drives this? And I think we've been focused really up until now on existing supply chains and on optimizing what we have. But the rail route is definitely on our roadmap, and we need to connect what is there and what the possibilities are from a transport management perspective to our customers, which are our internal business partners. But yes, it's definitely on our roadmap.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. When I first saw your presentation, Christine, again, I jumped immediately at the sentence about. It was a kind of a slogan rather than part of your presentation about the importance and value of logistics. You've mentioned the numbers, the amount of money that's spent on logistics. So I've had an example of a car maker who established how much money they were spending on logistics, and instead of thinking that makes logistics important, because if we're spending that much money, assuming the logistics division is doing a good job, it means that, it's something that's important, and they should look at it more seriously and embrace it and see how they can make the most of it. Is that how it's seen in Bosch, or did they look at it and think, oh my goodness, why are we spending so much money on something that's not important and really is a waste?
No, I think you're exactly right. We've developed out of a corner. Yeah, we were always kind of a second-tier function. Yeah. And now, in particular, with the initiative that we got the backing from the whole board, independent of which of the business sectors our board are responsible for, that really said, we can actually make something out of this. In order to be able to do that, you need to understand the business. And we didn't have an understanding. We didn't have a deep understanding. We assumed that the expertise in logistics was outside of Bosch. It was a very definite decision for a long time for this not to be one of our core competencies, and that's something that we changed over the last 4 years, and we've proven that if we insource certain competencies and we have a better understanding of what is happening there, we can make this contribution. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely a key component of the global services that we want to provide for the future.
Good. Any questions from the floor? A shy bunch. Yeah. We've talked a lot over the days and over the last year or so about, more tech, AGVs, robotics, artificial intelligence. So, we've also kind of mentioned along the way that people are still important and will play an important role in that. There's two sides of this. There's the kind of supply chain executive people coming in on the strategic decision-making process, and also we still need the people on the ground, the drivers. Despite that great video on the autonomous trucks, we still need the drivers, we still need the warehousing people, we still need the line side feeders and so on. What's the firstly, I suppose your input on both, and which one's more important? Where are you really sharing? Where would you really like to solve the issue? Is it the executive people, or are they coming through, or is it the kind of whatever it is, blue collar on the ground kind of workforce? So maybe to Igor first.
Yes, thank you for a question. It is not only interesting but rather very important question. It actually adds value to the presentation that I had it on my almost the last slide when I was speaking about the project that we had it at the transportation companies. There was on the left-hand side additional topics which goes to the management part. This is actually from the other cases when we were doing in a company that supplied the spare parts for the vans and the caravans, where the general manager came to approach to us and said, "Look, Igor, there's something wrong with us." We were racing through years together with a company of ours, Adria Mobil. All the KPIs and everything went up. Now, from our last project and until now, something has changed. Net value actually is bigger because we grew. However, the KPIs, the productivity and the profitability goes down, and I think that actually we are dealing not enough with ourselves. So we came up to them. We had a project that has actually been dealing with management, with the middle and the lower management on the place how they are dealing the businesses. And of course, the result has to be better profitability, better added value at the end, and better productivity. Mm-hmm. So that actually means that management is the one that drives the business. Of course, people are working and can contribute and should contribute to themselves. When there are new ideas coming, as we've heard today in the morning, someone has to empower them. So this is a kind of management skill. However, dealing with the management just to deal, it is one side of the story. The other one is to deal with the management on the right way, so that they really deliver the result. Mm-hmm. So my answer is everybody are rather important, but of course, me personally, I strongly believe that the middle management and the low manager are the one that really needs support in management skills and to drive the business and to give value to the business.
Christina, this question stemmed a little bit from our conference in Detroit, where we had the senior VP of a car maker had the pick of the conference, and I was almost thought, the subject that would interest her the most would be the top-level strategic supply chain people, but in the end, her main focus was on actually, warehouse people, line-side feeds, and so on. So where is is there a shortage of the right people, and which ones would you most like to fix?
I don't think the one excludes the other. I think very much we need both. We need to be open for ideas. we have to have an open mind, and we need to install in our organization a mindset that never accepts the status quo, right? So this was something that Robert himself said many, many years ago. It's not changed for us at all. And it doesn't, or we will not be successful, and when I say we, I don't mean Robert Bosch, I mean all of us here in this room, if this mindset is only available with every 10th person in our organization, depending on your leadership structure, right? So for us, and if I look now at the team here in Budapest, they are indirect associates. Each and every one of them have to have this mindset of thinking today what they can do better tomorrow, right? That's the one thing from a just being open. The second thing is that if we're looking at digitalization, automatization, connectivity, the opportunities that these things will give to our organization, we need to be able to connect the Digi people, so I call them Digi people, and the people that are actually doing the business today, and to have partnerships. And for these guys to go out on the shop floor and say, okay, sit together and say, why are you doing this? Why do you do this? Why do you have a system break here? Why do you copy data here from A to B? So that we don't provide solutions for problems that we never had. And we don't take our people along the journey with us, because that just creates frustration. It creates attrition that none of us need. And if we can encourage our people to be passionate about what they're doing and to think, okay, yes, I'm doing this today, but how could I do this differently tomorrow? Then we have a bottom-up approach of improvement rather than top-down. We made a decision for our initiative as a company. It was a top-down decision. But at the end of the day, if you don't take individual plants along the journey with you, you will not be successful, because they won't roll out the red carpet, they will shut the door, the shutters and the blinds, and they will give you a reason every day of the week, every month of the year, why that now is not the right time, right, to change things. So you need this through the whole of the organization.
Okay, thank you. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, or fortunately, we've run out of time, because it was an interesting session, and there was more questions, and a great question on the app as well. But you kind of answered it in what with your last question there. But again, we've got a coffee break now. We've got a great session in the afternoon, which is includes a presentation from Skoda and also a Q&A with a couple of senior logistics executives from part suppliers. So please join us for the final session. Keep some of your questions that you want to ask for that session, and keep interacting. If there's questions that we never got answered here, let us know, or let the individuals know, because we really like and want to encourage this interaction. A reminder about the evaluation forms. If you are crazy enough to leave now, please complete the evaluation forms and stay for the great dinner in the afternoon. But otherwise, enjoy your coffee break. I'm back in the room at 4 o'clock. Thank you very much. Thank you.